Hey, welcome. So today we're going to jump into one of the most talked about and, let's be honest, controversial books on strategy ever written, Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. It's a fascinating read that basically combs through centuries of history to figure out the hidden dynamics of influence.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a quote that really sets the stage for the kind of thinking in this book. The paranoid and wary are often the easiest to deceive. Now, at first glance, that sounds totally backward, right? But the idea here is that when someone is so focused on watching out for one specific threat, they become completely blind to another, much more subtle one. Their own suspicion actually creates the opening.
At its core, the book's big argument is that power isn't really good or evil. It's just a game, a social game that's happening all around us, all the time. And this book, well, it's basically the playbook, packed with strategies used by everyone from kings and queens to con artists to get ahead.
So let's kick things off with the very first law, and maybe the most important one: never outshine the master. This is all about that super delicate dance of managing the people above you. It's a place where one wrong move, even if you have the best intentions, can make you look less like a star employee and more like a threat.
And check this out. It's a perfect tale of two very different approaches. On one side, you've got Galileo. He doesn't just show off his incredible discovery, no, he gifts it to his patrons. He literally names the moons of Jupiter after the Medici family, tying their name to the stars forever. Brilliant, right? But on the other side, you have this Roman engineer. He was probably right, his design was probably better, but he made his boss feel stupid. And the results? Well, they couldn't be more different. Galileo thrived. The engineer? He got executed for his insolence.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that the people in charge often care way more about their own ego and glory than they do about the objective truth. Your talent, your brilliance, it can actually make them feel insecure. So instead of trying to outshine them, you've got to find ways to make your successes look like their successes. Attribute your best ideas to their great guidance.
Okay, now this next idea, this is where things get really interesting and, honestly, a little uncomfortable. The book makes this pretty startling argument. Be incredibly careful with your friends, but learn how to use your enemies.
Which leads to a really tough question, doesn't it? When you're playing the game of power, who's actually the better asset? The friend you're comfortable with, or the rival who forces you to be at the top of your game? The book's answer might surprise you.
And yeah, this proverb just nails the book's warning. Hiring friends is a huge risk because emotions get tangled up, envy starts to creep in, they might feel entitled to things, and suddenly it's almost impossible to hold them accountable. The book's take is pretty clear. When the stakes are high, you have to prioritize skill and competence over cozy feelings.
But here's the flip side. A former enemy that you manage to win over, they can become your most loyal ally because they have everything to prove. Think about someone like Henry Kissinger. He was known for finding his rivals more predictable and frankly more useful than his so-called friends. An enemy keeps you sharp. They keep you focused. If you don't have that rival pushing you, you get lazy. You get complacent.
All right, let's keep going because all of this builds up to what is probably the most Machiavellian part of the book, the strategic art of deception, not just for attacking, but for escaping impossible situations.
Let me give you a classic example from history. You've got the legendary general, Hannibal. He and his whole army are totally trapped, completely boxed in by the Romans in this narrow valley. It looks like there's absolutely no way out.
And then suddenly, in the dead of night, the Roman guards on watch see something bizarre. Thousands of torches moving up the side of the mountain. It makes zero sense. What is that? A secret army? Where did they come from? Their minds are just racing, trying to figure it out. And as if that wasn't weird enough, this awful, terrifying noise starts drifting up from the valley. The Roman soldiers, they can't make sense of the sight, they can't explain the sound, so their brains just jump to the most primal explanation they can think of. Demons. It must be demons. And they just run. They abandon their posts in a total panic.
So what was really going on? Oh, it was just pure genius. Hannibal had tied bundles of burning twigs to the horns of thousands of oxen and had them stampeded up the mountain. He didn't need to fight the Romans head-on. He just created this massive smoke screen, this puzzle their minds couldn't solve, and let their own fear do all the work for him.
You see this same kind of psychological theater in a more modern con, too. It's brilliant, really. Step 1, you set up a decoy. The con artist shows the target, the mark, this really unimpressive-looking boxer. The mark's greed kicks in. He smells an easy win. Step 2, you create a fake problem, a sense of urgency, the fear of missing out on a great deal. By step 3, the Mark is so emotionally invested, he actually offers his own money to solve the problem, feeling like he's the smart one, saving the day. And then, of course, step 4, the vanish. And that's the key, right? The best deceptions make the target feel like they were the one calling the shots all along.
Okay, so we've looked at these wild historical stories, these pretty intense strategies. What does it all boil down to? What are the big takeaways from this, sometimes dark but always fascinating playbook?
Well, what the book is really saying is that true power, the kind that lasts, isn't about being the loudest or the strongest person in the room. It's about mastering appearances, understanding that what people see is often more important than what's real. It's about understanding human psychology, knowing what makes people tick, and most of all, it's about self-control. Knowing when to speak, when to stay silent, and always planning ahead.
And that really is the final thought the book leaves you with. Its ultimate point is that you can't just decide not to play the game of power. It's happening whether you like it or not. The only choice you have is whether you want to understand the rules. So the real question is, are you going to be a player or are you going to be a pawn? Thanks for joining me.